This weekend, throughout the United States, we begin Vocation Awareness Week. Following our celebration of All Saints this past Wednesday, all of us are invited to consider and focus on our call to holiness spoken to us at baptism. And unfortunately, that makes our readings today all that more painful and convicting. The prophet Malachi in that first reading is laying into the Old Testament priests because they were offering imperfect sacrifices, leading people astray and making void the covenant that God had made with Levi. This is some serious stuff. And Jesus picks up where Malachi left off, saying of the religious leaders of his day that people should do what they say, but not imitate their example. It's a conviction that is not only aimed at the hearts of the scribes and Pharisees of his day, but it is also a bomb that should land on the heart of every parent, every religious sister and brother, every priest, every single person, every person of faith. In essence, there is no vocation left unscathed at the end of our liturgy of the word today. All those who are in positions of authority in the church, in our families, in the community, are called to task for their care of those entrusted to them. And fortunately, in between the challenging words of the prophet Malachi and Jesus, we find the witness of St. Paul in his letter to the Thessalonians, which is a tremendous help in how we are called to live our vocation. This entire letter to the Thessalonians is filled with warmth and concern for his people. Paul has left Philippi, he's traveling, he's stopped, he's formed this community there, but very quickly he is pushed out by the Jewish community in that area. And so he doesn't have time to really get to know the community well, but he's there long enough to express his love and his concern for them. But he doesn't get to see it kind of grow and develop. But in this letter, we read one of the greatest insights into authentic Christian witness in all of the New Testament. Paul says, "With such affection for you, we were determined to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our very selves as well. So dearly beloved had you become to us." I can't think of a better message to share at the beginning of Vocation Awareness Week than this. Because to live one's vocation means to offer one's life in charity for others. Every single vocation in the church is rooted in a desire to share one's life for the sake of our brothers and sisters. And this is so different than someone saying one thing with their mouths and saying something else by the way that they live. It's different than laying a bunch of burdens on someone's back and then not lifting a finger to help them. It's very different than kind of lording one's authority over other people. Every vocation is aimed at service and mission. It is always directed outward. It's never about us. It's not about focusing inward, not about kind of seeing how great we are or what great things we can do. It's always aimed outward, towards others. Even the cloistered sisters of the Poor Clare Monastery here in Evansville, who many of us will never meet, who spend their lives behind the walls of their monastery and are offering their lives in service for the world through prayer and sacrifice. Even their lives that seem locked away are aimed at service for the world, for all of us. Any vocation that points only to itself is not a vocation at all. Marriages that don't point beyond themselves eventually wither. Priests who care only about their own interests and comfort will be miserable. Consecrated single people who merely revel in not being tied down to others will generate only isolation. And those who live as religious brothers and sisters who fail to offer themselves to the community to which they belong, even if they are surrounded by their brothers and sisters in community, can land in isolation and despair. Every single vocation is aimed outward, not inward. And maybe this means that we have to kind of rediscover what this looks like in our own life. You know, maybe we've been married for a while, or maybe our spouse has died, or maybe, in my case, I've been a priest for 12 years. The things that I used to kind of love and get excited about have changed. And so maybe it's a time for all of us to look again at our vocation. Because maybe what we used to love is different, or we're called to love in a different way. And this, I think, is where St. Paul can be particularly helpful. What's so beautiful about his relationship to the Thessalonians is the reason he gives himself for others. He says, so dearly beloved had you become to us. This is why he gives himself, because he loves these people. He's not just preaching about salvation. He's not just passing along the teachings of Jesus. He's giving himself. He's saying to them, I love you, and this is why I'm offering myself on your behalf. And how much we need to rediscover this in our own lives and in our own vocations. Who is it that is dearly beloved to us? Who do we love? Who do we want to offer ourselves for? What pulls at our hearts so much so that we will be willing to sacrifice and suffer? Again, we have to be thinking of where Jesus is leading us, where our vocation is leading us, because the word vocation means calling. And we don't call ourselves. We're called by another to be led out, to discover something new, to discover what it is that we are capable of. You know, as the vocation director for the diocese, so often, well, fortunately, not terribly often, but on occasion, a young man will show up in my office, and he's got this look of despair on his face, and he'll say, I think God's calling me to be a priest. Well, I appreciate the support, buddy. And sometimes it happens, probably to none of you married couples, but it happens sometimes where people will say, you know, I'm married. I've been married for 25 years. Well, I'm sorry. But why is it? Why is it that we get stuck in a rut? And it happens to all of us. Why do we get stuck in a rut? Whatever the reason, to move from that rut, to move beyond this kind of routine way of living our lives, we can't turn in. That's not helpful. We have to be obedient to our vocation, which leads us out. And so if you're in a rut in your marriage, it means go with your spouse out. Don't turn in. As a priest, if I get stuck in a rut, the more I turn in, the worse it gets. If people who are living the consecrated life and religious life or single life, turning in is like the worst thing you can do. We have to go out. Because it's by going out and serving our brothers and sisters that we see a new possibility. Otherwise, we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and we just keep digging the hole, and it doesn't help. And so Vocation Awareness Week is a week where we can kind of look at ourselves and say, where am I stuck? And if I'm stuck, then where is the face that I am called to love? Where is the individual? Where is the group of people that I am called to give myself to? All of us, no matter where we are in our vocation, have to look again at how we stand in front of our brothers and sisters. Is there someone in our lives that we say, so dearly beloved had you become to me, that I want to offer not only the gospel, but my very self as well? Let's pray that God would help us to rediscover our love for our spouse, for our community, for the people that God puts in front of us, so that we can be led to discover something new, and so that our vocation can continue to grow and grow and grow, and invite others to be a part of the call that God has given to us.